Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Moore. I'm the Financial Literacy Manager at UBT, and today we are going to be talking about interviewing skills. So we're going to talk about what an interview looks like, some questions that might come up, actually a lot of questions that might come up, even how to dress appropriately for an interview, even as a young adult and as a teenager. We're going to specifically talk about how to dress in an interview and why we dress a certain way. So feel free to ask questions along the way and engage. And thank you all for joining me. So let's get started. Okay. So we're talking about interviewing. So we're not necessarily talking about the application or resume process. That's a different topic. We're just talking about interviewing. So let's say you have turned in an application or a resume, and not all of them take both, but when you get the interview, so somebody calls you to get the interview, what should you do? Well, what you really need to do right away, and hopefully you've done a little bit of this prior to applying, is do some research on the company. You want to know what they do because you want to know if you're going to fit in there. But also going into an interview, you want to know a little bit about the company. Maybe if they have different locations, or if they're a big company, small company. Are they a manufacturing company? Are they a bank? You want to know a little bit about the topic. How long have they been in existence? I mean, is this like UBT that's been around for 100 years? Or is this a new company that's a startup company that's only been around for 5? You want to know that because the longer they've been there, the more kind of set in their ways they are, versus maybe they're new and they're looking for some fresh ideas. So you want to be able to talk about those things. What specific job are you applying for? Do some research. When I do this presentation, I like to use things like Scooters. If you're going to apply for a barista job at Scooters or Starbucks, so you're going to hear me say Scooters a lot. But if you're applying for a specific job at Scooters, like a barista, you need to know what that entails. You don't have to know everything. That's not the point. It's just what is it that you're doing? Well, you're making coffee. You're making different types of coffee. You're going to be working with people. You're going to be working with money. Those are the type of things that you're going to want to do some research on. And then finally, who is the CEO or president? I put this on here because I have been asked this question several times in interviews. And one of them was I was applying at a police station to be a 911 operator, and they asked me who the sheriff was. And I didn't know. And actually, my brother's a police officer, and he said, you need to know who that is. And so it's just a suggestion to kind of know if there's a CEO or a president, or maybe it's a publicly owned company, or like Hy-Vee, the employees own the store. So they may have a president, but the employees own the store. And so you want to know that going in. So it's just, you're probably not going to be questioned about that maybe later on in life when you're getting into more of a career, but it's also just something fun to bring to the table that it's going to be telling that you've done your research. So get online, look at the company. What do they do? Why do you want to work there? And bring that to the table. Okay, and what do you want to bring? Actually, since I said that, was a good segue. What do you want to bring to your interview? Okay, 3 copies of your resume. Now, a lot of the jobs you're going for right now at your age, you don't need a resume for, and that's okay. If you don't have a resume, you don't have a resume. But if you are attaching, because a lot of them, when you apply online, even for Target, you can apply online, but you can also attach your resume. So if you do have one of those, which is great, and you are allowed to turn in a resume even at your age, bring that with you. And the reason you want to bring it with you is because you will be interviewed by at least one person, but it could be more than one person. And they may want to review your resume. It makes you look prepared. And the fact that you can hand them over your information right there, you may be a step ahead the last person that they interviewed. So you want to bring your resume with you if you turned in a resume. You want to bring your references. So a reference is someone who's going to give you a good word about who you are. So it's someone that the company can call to say, hey, how is Tegan as a worker? Did you like working with her? They can ask some questions about that. These are people that you have talked to beforehand to ask them if they will give you a reference, but you also want to ask them if they will give you a good reference. Some people will give you a reference, but it's not what you want. Even if they're being honest, it may not be the greatest thing that you want. So you want to find people that really liked you, that you worked well with, that would say really nice things about you. And you want to bring their name and their number and probably their email address with you. So you want 3 copies of that also to go with your resume. Standard for resumes is, or excuse me, for references is 2 professional people. So these can be a former boss, maybe a teacher or a mentor. Maybe Maura would give you a professional reference, something like that. Someone who knows you, but in the professional world, not somebody that is related to you. Some people choose their pastor or a group leader at church, or somebody, if they're in a sport, maybe their coach. Those would be professional references that you can bring with you. And then a personal one. Personal does not mean a family member, because your family members will always say nice things. You want a family friend. So maybe there's a good family friend that's known you all of your life as an adult, and they're an adult now, and they would give you a positive reference. So that's also another one you can bring to the table. Please do not put family members on as references. The business will likely not call them. All right, so be sure to let your references know that you're putting them on the list. So you need to contact them beforehand and say, hey, can you be a reference? I'm applying for scooters. They'll either tell you yes or no, but get their information. And once you have your reference list, you don't have to change it. You can bring that list to every job interview that you have until you're ready to change them. But these 3 or 4 people you can use all the time, so you don't have to keep finding someone to give you a reference, which is really handy. Any questions about references or what to bring to an interview? Or has anyone ever brought anything different that they would suggest doing? All right, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to what to wear, the teenage edition. That's what I'm calling it here. Okay, so when we are going into an interview, my biggest thing and my biggest encouragement is that you want the employer who's interviewing you to see you, not what you're wearing and not what you're wearing on your face if you wear makeup or your hair. We want them to see you and hear you for the wonderful person that you are, where you're going to bring all of your talents to the table and you're going to tell them why you are the best person for this job. And we want them to remember that about you, not what you're wearing or not what your hair looks like or your makeup. Okay, so we're going to go in professionally, and but we're going to dress for the job that we're going in for. So do some research. This should have been on the research tab. Do some research for the company dress code. So scooters, for instance, people just wear whatever they want to wear there. They keep it conservative, so they're covered up usually. Maybe they have a uniform, something like that, but you want to wear something that goes along the lines of what they're going to be wearing every day. Now, you don't want to walk into your scooters interview in running shorts or leggings and a hoodie. Yes, maybe the employees wear that, but you want to look a little more dressed up for your interview. Doesn't mean you have to wear a dress, and you probably maybe don't want to wear a dress, but we want to go with what the dress code is for the company. Now, even at your age, you could be getting into a job that you're going to stay at for 30 years. So there's room for growth, there's room for development. So maybe you would start off as, say, an administration person, but you could work your way up to being president of the company. So there's a lot of room for growth there, which means there's a lot of room for different types of clothing that's going to be worn. So you want to do your research. We don't want to wear revealing clothing. And the reason for this is, like I said before, I want the employer to see you, your mind, what you're bringing to the table, your attitude, your spunkiness, your drive, your confidence. I want them to see that, not what you're wearing, okay, or what you look like. We don't want that to be what they remember. We want it to be so neutral that they remember you, because there was nothing necessarily striking about your clothing. And when you wear revealing clothing, it could be very striking, and that's what they're going to remember. I've done a lot of interviews in my time, not just me interviewing, but me interviewing others. The company I worked for prior to UBT, I did a lot of the hiring, and I have seen things that I don't want to see. And that's what I remember. I don't remember the conversation I had with people. I remember what they were wearing, because it was too revealing or it was not appropriate for the workplace, something like that. They clearly did not do their research. And we didn't hire them because of that either. So it's definitely something that employers are looking at. I want you to wear clothes that are comfortable and bring out confidence in you. And by comfortable and confident, I mean, you're not thinking about what you're wearing. You're not tugging at it. You're not fixing it. You're not having to pull up your pants when you sit down. You're not pulling up your shirt to keep it kosher. You're wearing something that you can just sit down and have a conversation with, and you don't have to worry about it because you're comfortable, but you're also confident that this is the right thing that I'm supposed to be wearing and there's nothing wrong here. So comfortable and confident, do your research on what they are wearing at the company, and don't wear revealing clothing. So I have some pictures here. Somebody sent these to me to put them on here. These are a little more business casual, maybe a little older for what the jobs you might be going for right now, but they're really, really great ideas. And I want to look at this picture and I want you guys to chime in on a couple of questions I'm going to ask. So look around at these pictures, okay? And I want somebody to tell me, what is one thing they really notice about these pictures? All the women in these pictures, what's maybe like a common theme that you see with all these pictures?
Can I chime in?
Yeah, please do.
I see one thing in common that is everyone's wearing neutral colors.
Yes.
So maybe black, blue, gray, tan, but nothing too vibrant, nothing too just loud, very neutral.
I would say the one, the lady bottom row, second from the left, hers is a little more loud, but it's still that neutral. You know, it's not too crazy because there's not a whole lot of patterns going on. It's just that one pattern. But I would say that's the loudest outfit in this whole list, because everyone, they're keeping it neutral. That's great. What else does somebody see in here?
Blazers.
Yeah, blazers they're pretty popular, and they're making really cute blazers right now, even for your age, they don't have shoulder pads anymore. They took those out, but now they have like 3/4 length sleeves and the sleeves are ruffled or they come up. They're really cute. And they're not so professional, like business suit, esque. That's out now. Even though there is a couple on here. Great. What else do you guys see? Ladies see?
There's nothing above the knee.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I haven't noticed that one. Yeah. What would that kind of go into? What would that apply to? There's nothing above the knee. But also, if we're looking around, there's really nothing going down too far in the front either. So could we all agree that everybody's looking pretty conservative, pretty covered up? It's all kind of appropriate as far as we're not seeing anything revealing. The one loud dress kind of is a little bit revealing, so maybe we put something under that. But for the most part, everybody's very conservative in what they're wearing. Skirts aren't too high, shirts aren't too low.
They're still able to, there's a girl wearing white sneakers, black pants, tan jacket, white sneakers. So she's still expressing themselves. There's a lot of scarves being worn. There's very little jewelry, but they're still able to express their own individuality. Yes. But it's always best to sort of err on the conservative side. And then once you do that, you can, once you get the job, you can fly your colors no matter however you want. But it's good to be conservative at first.
I'm glad you brought up the kind of individuality. If you look at the one with the sneakers on, I mean, she looks like she's walking into she could walk into a Scooters interview, or she could probably walk into our bank and wear that and still be considered, because it still is professional, but it kind of gives her a little personality. There's nothing inappropriate about it, but it's personality. And then the girl next to her with the pink shoes, she's wearing black and white and then pink shoes. I love that idea of putting something in there that's dramatic, but it's not overly dramatic where it's inappropriate. It just, all of them have different types of shoes. One has some leopard print. There's a girl in here, the girl wearing scarves. It's literally the same outfit. She only changed the scarf and the shoes, but she tucked in her shirt versus keeping it out. So she's on the top row and the bottom row.
Oh yeah, I see that.
So
and
she
she
dressed
changed
it
her
up.
shoes.
Yeah, she dressed it up and then took it down a notch too. So it's interesting how just tucking in your shirt can really change something, but she's literally wearing the same outfit, which I think is cool. So I love this.
Me too.
I know, me too. I love this because I work in we call it business casual. We can wear most things. We can't wear jeans or like tennis shoes, but everything on here I could wear. I could probably tone it down even too. So this is a really good example of different things that you could wear to an interview, but do what you can with it. You know, if you've got a cute sweater, put that on, layer up. That's always nice, but neutrals, that was a really good one. And yeah, some accessories to make it your own. That's great too, because it's, you know, winter's coming up and we can really accessorize with the scarves and stuff. So any questions on any of this? Anything else anybody notices? Most of these women I'd probably post in my Pinterest app because I love
I go to Pinterest a lot for clothing ideas for business casual and stuff like that. So.
Like if I have a certain type of shirt, I type it in to Pinterest and then I get clothing ideas from that shirt. So,
me too.
Yeah. When in doubt, look at Pinterest. Should put that on my. Okay, so I have some what to wear and what not to wear. That used to be a show.
It was
probably as old as most of you. So, all right, this is what we want to say yes to. And I put some information for males in here too. But yes, button-down shirts. Even on these pictures, several of the women are wearing button-down shirts. That's a thing now. We wear them all the time, especially the girl that just changed her shoes and scarf. I'm pretty sure I have her shirt, so I could dress it up or tone it down. Polo shirts are always great. That's mainly for guys. It's kind of it's a business casual. It's looking nicer without wearing a tie. Slacks for men and women. Slacks are great. Some black pants, tan pants. Like you can pretty much wear anything with that, including shoes. Dress shirts. As we look on here, dress shirts would be like the girl in the middle with the yellow sweater. She's wearing a dress shirt. It's not meant for shorts. It's meant for, you know, going to work, and it's a little bit nicer. Most of them are wearing dress shirts, but that one is in particular what we considered a dress shirt, or what my mom would say is a blouse, not a shirt. Dark jeans. So I would be cautious with this, but for young adults like yourselves, dark jeans are usually okay to wear in interviews. And by dark jeans, I mean the dark wash, solid, with no holes, whether you made them or you bought them that way. Just because we buy jeans with holes in them doesn't mean they're appropriate for every occasion. So dark jeans, totally fine. That goes along with doing some research. So Scooters would probably be a great place to wear some dark jeans. That's okay to do that. A tie, if appropriate for the job. So the tie could go on the yes and no list. Traditionally, that's for males, but that's to say too, we don't want to dress it up too much. And yeah, because we don't want to look fancier than the person we're interviewing. They might feel a little intimidated. And I put closed-toed shoes. Now, if we look back on our list here, there are a couple of the females that are wearing open-toed shoes. Actually, I'm only seeing one. The one in the far left bottom corner. She's got some like sandal, looks probably like heels or platforms that are open-toed. Those are traditionally okay, but if you could do closed-toed shoes, it's usually best. Um, I'm not super sure the rule around is if you're going into the food industry, you need to wear closed-toed shoes. They're going to ask you anyway, but they might want to give you a tour of the facility that you're going to be working in. And if you're not wearing closed-toed shoes, they can't. So you're kind of taking yourself out of the equation of getting that tour and getting more acquainted with the business. So closed-toed shoes are usually the way to go. I know that there's a ton of cute sandals that are dressier or platform shoes, but I would definitely encourage you to aim for those closed-toed shoes. Like the girl top right, second from the right, the one with her blue shirt out with the polka dot scarf. You can get those type of shoes pretty much anywhere for really inexpensive. Just get a pair of black, you can wear them with anything. That's usually a safe way to go. So closed-toed shoes is definitely encouraged. So on the no list, open-toed shoes. The one thing I would say, do not wear flip-flops or sandals that have very thin straps. People make note of that. Somebody cannot not hire you because you're wearing sandals, but they'll find another reason not to hire you. Legally, they can't say I'm not hiring her because of her sandals, but they'll find another reason not to hire you simply because they just will. So go in there a little more dressed up, a little more put together, including your shoes. Please do not wear hats or hoodies. It's just inappropriate. Now, hoodies at scooters, you probably are going to see baristas wear that all the time, but still in your interview, you want to look a little more organized, put together, on top of things, like you put some effort into yourself. That's telling the employer that you do take care of yourself. Also with good hygiene, they want to know that you have good hygiene. So hats and hoodies tend to cover that up a little bit more. So we want to make sure that we are, showering and doing our hair and making a good impression. Too much makeup. Okay, this is my bugaboo. When I was interviewing, and I was interviewing for a lot of entry-level jobs, which means young adult jobs. Okay, so I was meeting with people in their early 20s, which I understand. There's nothing wrong with makeup. I wear makeup, but what we're asking is that you don't do a lot of bright colors or unnatural effects. So you don't want to wear your pink eyeshadow that day. Not a good idea. Again, I want to go back to, I want the employer to get to know you, get to know your brain, what you're bringing to the table, your personality, the great things about you, because that's what we're going to talk about is the great things about you and why you would be great for this company. But makeup, I'm not going to be able to see you. I'm only going to be staring at your pink eyeshadow and wondering what you look like without it. So we want to keep the makeup on the more natural look. I'm not saying don't wear makeup. I'm saying just keep it a little more natural, where again, they're seeing you, not your makeup. And too much cologne or perfume. This is a huge one. So scientists say that about 80% of our memory is jogged by scent. That's why when we smell a candle, we can go, oh my gosh, I remember this time that this happened. Or we're scent. Humans go by scent. We remember things based off what we smell. And though that may sound like a really great idea to come to the table and say, well, they're going to remember me because I'm going to smell really good. It's actually quite the opposite in an interview. I do not want to smell you before you walk into the room. Okay. And this has happened where I have smelled you, but I haven't even met you yet because it's so strong that you're making the whole business smell. We don't want that at all. I would probably encourage you not to wear anything besides, your shampoo and your soap scent. I would encourage you not to wear any spray. Can anyone maybe give me some ideas on why we don't want to smell, even though you smell delicious, that's fine, but we don't want to smell too perfumey or cologne-y? Anybody have some ideas on why that might not be a good idea? No idea is a bad idea, so throw them out. Hannah says too powerful. Absolutely. It could just be too much, simply too much. Boys in their Axe cologne. Anybody else?
Allergies.
Ooh, yes, allergies. It may not be your allergy, but your interviewee may be allergic to what you actually smell like. It could ruin the atmosphere. Absolutely. Absolutely. It could ruin the atmosphere. If you're interviewing maybe in a small room and it's just too much, that's all the interviewer is going to be thinking about. And maybe they're getting stressed out about it. Maybe they don't like the smell. And so they're kind of holding in a gag reflex, something like that. It could be anything. It really could be any reason. You could walk in and smell a certain way and it jogs my memory to a bad memory. So suddenly I'm correlating you with my bad memory, and you don't want that. You don't need to be remembered by my own bad memory. So we never know what somebody else is going to, if they're going to have an allergy or a bad memory based off what we smell like. So it's almost better to just not wear anything. Now, if you are, I would just suggest do the spray, spray, spray in the air and then walk through it, that maneuver. So we get a light scent. Don't sit in your car and spray yourself because it's all captured in your car. Just do the and then walk through it. And then that's it. It's okay to smell really nice, but maybe just not in the interview. So, and then
let me just add one thing.
Yeah,
remember that most interviews take place, at least in my experience, have taken place in a closed room. So you're not out there in the middle. And I've had an interview. I still remember this. It was like 3 years ago. I interviewed a woman for a position at my previous employer. And it took a couple of days for the room to not smell like her. And she did not smell good. I mean, her perfume was so powerful that it took days where people actually, it was in a conference room that we shared within the company, and people actually complained about it. And needless to say, she wasn't hired, and it wasn't just for the fact that she didn't smell good, but like Caitlin said, we would find ways to not have hired her regardless.
Yeah.
So it's a really powerful thing to remember.
That's interesting. I don't know that I've ever experienced that where their scent lingered, but that can be
lingered for days.
Yeah, that could be really dangerous to do that. So thank you for sharing that one.
Yeah.
I guess on that note too, make sure that you do clean yourself up. Put on some deodorant so you don't smell bad either. Just because you're not wearing perfume or a body spray doesn't mean you have to smell bad. So make sure that you're clean when you go into that interview because you don't want to be remembered by smelling bad. Especially if you're one of those, I'm just going to add this on because this happened today. There's someone in my family that sweats a lot. She just naturally sweats a lot. And like she can look outside and just start sweating. And so she has to be very careful about her body odor because she is just constantly sweating. So that's one of those, if you know you're one of those people, you want to be aware of that and take care of that right before you walk into the interview. Okay, any questions on what to wear, what not to wear? All right. Okay, so before your interview, before you walk in there, please reread the job description. Everybody has applied for, if you're getting an interview, you have applied for a job that had a job description, whether it's online or a piece of paper. You want to reread that. You want to reread that because they're going to ask you questions based off that job description. And also you're going to ask questions based off of that job description, and we'll go through that. So just take a glance at it because maybe it's been a couple weeks since you applied now that you have your interview, but you want to know specifically what job you are applying for because you may have applied for 20 of them. So we want to make sure we're walking into the room knowing which job we're actually interviewing for. And prepare answers to questions you may be asked. And we're going to go through this in a little bit. So you will be asked a lot of questions. That's what the interview is about. And we are going to talk about how to prepare for those questions. And a lot of them are based off the job description too. So it's definitely necessary to save the job description. And if you don't have it anymore, just go back to the employer's website and look for the job because they probably still have it posted, even though they're interviewing, and you just go in there and reread it again, just real quick, right? Like maybe the day or the night before the interview. Okay, so we're going to talk about tips for your interview. So allow plenty of time. Traditionally, we ask that you arrive no more than 15 minutes early, but please arrive early. So you're going to walk into any business and let them know that you're there, and they're going to have you seated somewhere. They're going to say, oh, okay, we'll get the manager, go have a seat and we'll get to you. One of the things I would encourage you not to do is to start playing on your phone. Can anyone tell me why this might not be a good idea? Say you got there 15 minutes early and it's going to be 15 minutes. Why would playing on your phone not be a good idea?
Anyone?
Anyone? It can show you're not interested. Ooh, that is a great answer. Yes, it could. You're zoning out on your phone. Maybe you're having maybe you're snapping with some friends, which please don't snap with your friends when you're sitting there for an interview, because taking photos like this, it's just inappropriate. It just doesn't work. And Danielle also said, or you don't have the patience to wait 15 minutes. Good one. Awesome. If you can't sit there for 15 minutes or less and just be patient, that's going to be telling the employer that you are kind of just everywhere, that during little downtimes on your job, you're going to be on your phone. That's what they're going to see. I guarantee you, and please go into every interview thinking this, that if you are early, the employer that is going to interview you is watching you. They're literally looking at the security cameras or watching you out of a window to see what you're like. Okay. We do this because we want to know if you're a relaxed person, if you're jittery, if you're nervous. We want to know that ahead of time. So they may just glance at you down the hall, or they could literally be staring at you for 15 minutes before they come and get you for your interview. But you're being watched. The receptionist also can be watching you. Great point. And they may even call the receptionist right there in front of you, and they'll say, hey, what's she like? Well, they may ask her yes or no questions. You know, is she jittery? Is she nervous? What's she like? What is she doing over there? Is she playing on her phone? They're going to ask questions. It's a weird world in which employers do research on you. Yes, they will ask if you're polite also. Was she rude? How did she come in the door? Did she seem mad? What's her mood? They're going to ask you questions. We as interviewers do a lot of research on you prior to you coming, and then we watch you for those couple minutes. So this is not to say that you should not show up early. You should, because that is telling your employer that you're punctual and that you're going to be on time. But we want you to sit there and just be patient. There's nothing wrong with turning off your phone real quick, looking at a magazine that might be on the table, maybe even having a conversation. If there's a receptionist, just ask her how he or she's day going, something like that. But I want you to stay off your phone because we get sucked into our phones. I am one of those. And I could really zone out when I'm looking at my phone, and I need to be present. I need to be there. I need to be preparing. If you have your resume, look that over. If you have the job description, look it over. It's just something to be doing while you're waiting patiently. And then practice your handshake. So this is a big one. I wish we were in person to talk about this. Because your handshake is going to be the first impression. Now, right now during COVID, we're not shaking hands. I get that. But in the future, we're going to be shaking hands again. So we need to practice. Now, all of you get the advantage of extra practice time because we're not shaking hands right now. So I want you to practice on friends or family, ones that you can touch right now, especially family within your household, and practice the handshake. So the handshake is always the first impression that you're giving the employer when you come in. They're going to say, Caitlin, are you Caitlin? Yes, I'm Caitlin. And we're going to put out our hands. Now there is a way to shake a hand and there's a way not to shake a hand. And I'm going to do my best because we're not shaking these two hands. But we don't want to do any of these dainty little shakes right here where you put your hand out and they're grabbing it like this. We don't want that. Can anybody tell me why?
I have so many ways of why that is so bad, but the handshake is the first impression for me. And I have not hired people prior your age based on their handshake.
Yep.
A dainty handshake shows lack of confidence, lack of maturity. It shows lack of interest, most importantly. And those are the three things that I would not be interested in.
Yep.
Going forward. And you guys are strong, smart, and bold. So you need to have a nice, firm, confident handshake.
Yep. So these dainty ones definitely give off a sign of weakness. And the weakness could simply be, I don't want to be here. My mom made me be here. I don't want to be here. But that's not an impression you want to give someone. Again, we don't want to be remembered by our handshake. We want that to be a neutral but strong and confident situation. So a confident handshake has to do with this part of your hand right here. So if you want to put your hand out and check it out, you want this part of your hand between your thumb and your pointer to lock up with the other person's pointer and their thumb. So when you go in for a handshake, and again, it's weird because I'm shaking my own hand, but those two parts are going to meet, and then we're going to put our hand around the hand. We're going to wrap our fingers around. So my fingers are around the other side of my hand, but my thumbs, I don't know what this part of the hand is called, but those are locking. That is a strong handshake right there. And then we're going to do a little squeeze. We're not going to break their knuckles, but we're going to latch on there. So it might be a little harder to pull it out. If we're just weakly putting it on there, there's no grip and it's going to fall. It's going to fall apart. So we want to lock onto their hand, and we do a 1, 2, 3 or a 1, 2, whatever that looks like. And then we separate it. Have you ever shaken a hand where you went in and then somebody else, they took their other hand and put it over both the hands? Has anyone had that? Or they grab your arm at the same time? That's major confidence. It can be a little awkward. Definitely don't be that person. It usually makes people feel uncomfortable or trapped, like they have both my hands. What am I supposed to do? We're just locking, wrapping, 1, 2, 3, and separating. That's it. Again, if we're locking, we're not breaking their hands like an MMA fighter. We're just holding on to it. So when we go down, we can't separate. It's just 1, 2, 3, and we have to intentionally let go of their hand. That shows a lot of confidence in yourself. Like, I am bold, I am strong, I am confident to be here. I know what I want, and I want to be here, and I want this job. Lighter ones show, I don't want to be here. I don't care. I'm terrified of you as an employer. I'm terrified to interview. I'm not confident in myself, all those things. So I want you to practice with people, and I would do it now, but it's kind of one of those times we just can't. But practice with an immediate family member. I see Sam has someone in the background she can practice with. You don't have to do it right now. But you do have somebody within your household that you could practice and just work on it and ask for their feedback. Was it strong? Did it hurt? Do you think it was too weak? Try it on a male and a female. Maybe there's a difference in opinion, something like that. But give it a shot, but make sure you were locking the thumb and the pointer together, and then we're wrapping our other hands around that person's hand. So then a 1, 2, 3, and separate. A good handshake gives the interviewer the impression that you are confident. And like Maura was saying, I have had the range of handshakes within when I've been interviewing, and it's so irritating to me as somebody who is interviewing to have somebody put their hand out and not even grab mine, but they put it out so that I could hold it. It feels like I'm holding a 3-year-old's hand, which I have a almost 3-year-old, and I don't want to shake a 16-year-old, 3-year-old hand. So please lock hands and just work on that. It'll come naturally to you over time. So you don't always have to practice, but start practicing now, because you're going to take this through the rest of your life. Even without interviews, you're going to be shaking people's hands for the rest of your life, minus COVID. And maybe it won't be a huge thing. Maybe COVID will make people stop shaking hands as much, but you will be shaking hands with people. So you need to have kind of your go-to confidence shake. So I would encourage you to practice that as soon as possible. For the sake of time, we're going to run through some of these questions here, not all, but I have 2 pages of questions that you will likely be asked in any interview, whether you're 16, 25, or 60. You will be asked a lot of these questions, okay? And this is when you sit down with the interviewer and they just start asking questions. They're trying to get to know you. So they're asking, tell me about yourself. They do not want the long list. They do not want the novel of, well, I was born in 1986 in Anaheim, California, and I'm a twin, and I was born first though, and they don't want that. And those are all true facts. They want to hear, well, I am a junior in high school, and I am on I'm on the volleyball team, and I'm a part of Girls Inc. that we meet, on a weekly or monthly basis. I really enjoy art and reading. And is there anything else you would like me to know? It's just some quick facts about who you are. What makes you super great? Why do they want you? Why do they want Caitlin to work for them? And this is where you get to brag on yourself. How would you describe yourself? So this is a little bit different than tell me about yourself. Describing yourself is using adjectives. I had to remember which one it is. It's descriptive words of who you are. So for me, I will always say I'm very organized. I'm very punctual. I hate being late. I work well as a team, but I also work really well individually. I love getting to know people almost to fault. So I love building relationships with my coworkers. Quick to the point, but I'm giving them 4 or 5 adjectives to describe me as a person that look really good. And part of this decision of what you should say about yourself may actually do with the job description. So if I'm going to be a barista, if I'm interviewing for a barista job, they want to know that I get along well with others, that I am organized because it's a high capacity job. We're going. They want to know that I love talking to customers and I'm willing to get to know them. So you can kind of apply your strengths to the job that you're interviewing for. If you were working, so my job now, very, unless I'm doing this with groups like you, I work alone. I work completely alone. Nobody else works with me. And so going into my interview, I had to tell them I'm an introvert and I love working alone. But I really do love working with other people. I love this part of my job, which is getting to know people, but I can do both very well. So I'm applying my own strength to the job that I'm interviewing for. Maura, you look like you have something to say.
I am with the girls who are present. I just want to say one thing: use positive adjectives to describe yourself. I know some of us have we all can describe ourselves negatively. That is easy to do. Yeah. It is hard to describe ourselves in a positive way. It's a human fault that we all experience, but as women, we experience it more. And so we need to remember to use three adjectives that describe us positively. And then you have to wear those adjectives, whether you have to fake it first so that you start to believe it. That's okay. I do that all day long, girls. So age doesn't take that away, but you need to learn to fake it so that when you're trying to impress someone with your abilities to do the job that you're interviewing with, you are able to impress upon them that you have a positive attitude. It's hard to do sometimes, but we fake it until we make it. And you wear your superhuman cape and you get yourself ready. But 3 positive adjectives are really good. It's a mantra that I have. 3 positive words that describe myself every day. And I remind myself when I wake up in the morning what those 3 positive words are. So I go out throughout my day with those words.
That's awesome.
That's a little insight on me. Yeah. So.
And I would encourage you to ask others. If you can't think of those words, ask others, the people that you like, and ask them to describe you, and then put an adjective to their description. I would encourage you also to plan this out ahead of time. If you're writing notes right now, tell me about yourself. How would you describe yourself? And then we'll get to it. List 3 strengths and areas that you can improve. Those are things you need to know ahead of time. And I would encourage you to write that out And then you can use that in every single interview that you go to. You can have that prepared in your back pocket right away, so that you don't have to think too hard about it. Now, those will change over time. Maybe you'll start liking something about yourself that you didn't a year ago, but you can absolutely change that, but you could take it with you wherever you go. Oh, that's a good one. Tegan, I like your feedback. Okay, so going down this list, why do you want to work here? We've got a lot of questions to go through, but these are super important. So I'm going to kind of speed through some of these. Why do you want to work here? Tell them, be honest. Say something positive. I love coffee. And so I would just really love to work here. One of my first jobs was at Target when I was 16. And I remember in my interview, they said, why do you want to work here? And I said, well, honestly, I'm here all the time anyway, so you might as well pay me to be here, because I shopped at Target all the time. Now, that's not a super great answer, but it was something that they remembered and laughed about, and they did hire me. And I remember the lady who interviewed me mentioned it at a later time, that was just a really funny response. So be honest about why you're working there. And honesty doesn't mean my mom wants me to get a job and this is what I chose, or it's really close to my house so I can walk here. That's not a good answer. We want to bring something, even if you kind of have to fake it or twist it a little bit. I'm not asking you to lie. I'm just asking you to pull something positive out of why you want to work there. Even if the food tastes great and I just want to work here. I mean, you could do that, especially if you have a sense of humor. You can wrap it into a joke. What interests you about this particular job kind of goes hand in hand. What motivates you? This is not what motivates you to work. This is what motivates you in life. What gets you out of bed in the morning? Maybe you love school, maybe you love sports, maybe you just love being around people and that's what motivates you. For me, that's one of them, is just knowing that all the work that I do by myself, I end up on calls and teaching moments like this, where I get to share my knowledge. This is what pumps me up and this is what gets me out of bed, especially on a Saturday morning, to wake up and go, I get to do a presentation today. It honestly brings me a lot of joy, which I know a lot of people wouldn't enjoy public speaking, but I love it. So find something that motivates you. And you can even ask your family, what do you think motivates me? Because they'll know an answer. If it's money, I think that's a really good answer sometimes if you word it right. You know, if an employer asks you what motivates you, you can kind of move it into, I love learning something really well that I continue to learn and grow in a company. And in your mind, you're going, I want more money. That's your answer, but you can kind of reword it into something that the employer might want to hear. Why did you leave your previous job? If you don't have a job history, that's okay. If you left your previous job, this is key, on bad terms, you need to figure out a way to say it without making yourself look bad. So if you were fighting a lot, for instance, with employees and you just decided I can't be here anymore, then a nice way of saying that was, there seemed to be a lot of conflict within my workplace and I just felt it wasn't a good environment for me. So that's not targeting you, that's targeting the workplace. If you got fired from another job, I don't believe legally you have to say you were fired, but you can also just say, I don't know, I search this question a lot. Like, what's a good way of saying it just wasn't a good fit for me?
It wasn't a good fit is a good way.
Yeah.
It also conveys the message already, but you guys probably don't have that experience yet, but
yeah. And then so these are the two that I'm going to land on, these last two, before we get to the other ones. But what are your strengths? So this is one that you need to work on as soon as possible, especially if you're looking for a job. What are your strengths? You need at least 3 of them. These are things that you're good at and that you want to brag about. This is your moment to brag about who you are. Now, I can use some of the things that I used in describing myself. I'm very organized or punctual, but you may want to take those and go a little bit deeper. I love building relationships. I love developing. So for my job, I develop curriculum and I write curriculum. So developing is a strength. I love building something out of nothing. So that's a strength. So you want to find those things that describe yourself in a positive way and then build upon those to be your strengths, because they are, and they're always going to be your strengths. The next one, people people are moving away from the question, what are your weaknesses? We're trying to, I think as a society, we're not using the word weakness anymore. We're saying things like, what are some areas that you can improve upon? So we are all going to have, quote, weaknesses. We can never be good at everything, okay? We will always have things that we're not good at, and that is okay. Employers that believe that you should be good at everything are not good employers to work for. So don't join their club. You will always have things that you are not great at. But within those things that you are not great at, you need to learn how to work through them. Okay. Just because you're not good at them doesn't mean you get to avoid the topic. So if you're not an organized person, this is where your answer comes into play. What are areas that you feel you can improve? You can say, well, I'm not that really great at organization, but, okay, we're going to add in a but. Everything that you can improve upon that you're going to mention in your interview, you're going to tell them how you are trying to improve it. Okay. I am not good at organization, but I'm working with my mentor to get some organization tools for my desk. We're working on how to organize my notebook at school. So we're adding in that this isn't a strength, but I'm working on it. And I may never perfect it, but I'm working on it. Okay. Maybe your strength is not making new friends. You're not one of those that's really bold and walks up to someone and just starts a conversation, but that doesn't mean you can't. And if you're going to be a barista, you're going to have conversations with each other. So maybe your area to improve is, I find it a little bit more difficult to start conversations with strangers, but I've researched some questions that I can ask anyone, some conversation starters, and I keep them in my back pocket for when I meet a stranger. See, we have a weakness or somewhere where we can improve, and we're working on it. We may never perfect it, but we're working on it. So those two questions, what are your strengths and areas to improve? You will be asked at every single interview you will ever be in. They want to know, and they want to know it honestly, and they want to know that you're working on these areas. Here are some other questions. We're not going to go into it. I'm running out of time. Do I have till 1:15? What's the time frame here? Supposed to be
1:50. I mean, I think that'd be up to the girls. They want to, if they're able to stay a little longer.
Okay.
They could all give us a thumbs up or a way of letting us know. But
if you can't, that's fine. If you can power through this for another 15 minutes, that would be awesome. And I can send this also to Maura. So if you want to look through it, this is, you'll have this PowerPoint for notes too. So I'm going to go ahead and power through it. But if you have to get off, it was a joy having you today. And I will definitely see you next time, but I will, and we're also videoing this so you can see this
right
at a later
right.
time. Okay. So here are some other questions. Tell me about a difficult situation you've been in and how did you overcome it? This is where they want to know, conflict resolution. Can you handle hard stuff and still work through it? If you've had a job before that had some hard stuff happen, this is a great time to use as an example, but you need to have the but we did this to overcome it. You need to have your resolution piece. If you've never had a job, you can certainly talk about something that happened at school. Maybe you're in sports and there's some conflict. Maybe you had conflict with a teacher even. You can absolutely talk about those things. Anything that's happened in life that's hard. And we're not talking about traumatic experiences. We're talking about some relatable experiences, maybe some drama with some friends or on the sports team, but then how did you work through that? Always, always, always talk about how did you work through that. That's telling the employer, I acknowledge that hard things are going to happen, but I'm willing to work through them. That's what they want to hear. Why should we hire you? Again, a bragging point. Your whole interview is a bragging point. You need to go in there with a positive attitude that I am the right person for this job, because they're going to ask you, why are you the right person for this job? And you need to tell them. If I was going to be a barista, I would say, I love coffee and I just really want to learn how to make different types of coffee, because I'm going to sell that coffee like crazy once I figure out how to make it all, because I love it. I just love coffee. That would be a great positive thing to bring to the table, that they want people like that selling their coffee. How do you handle stress? This is something that's any stress that you have, whether it's at work or school or home. How do you handle it? Do you run? Do you journal? Do you do art? Do you have to talk about it with someone? That's okay to mention that. You know, I usually say I will try to get outside. I love being outside. I process with friends if I need to, but within confidence. I have my one go-to person that I talk to. They want to know that you're not bottling it up inside and you're going to explode in the middle of a work day. So they want to know that you can handle your stress. And we all handle stress very, very differently. And so definitely take note of that. Tell me more about your work experience if you have it. If you don't, that's okay. Do you work well under pressure? If you don't, be honest about it. A nice way of saying that is, you know, I would rather know what the expectation is of me and what my workday may be. I understand there's probably going to be some pressure to get things done at last minute or if things get busy. But I love being organized enough to kind of know what to expect. Okay. That's a great way of saying it without saying, please don't pressure me to get things done. I am one of those that can honestly say I love working under pressure. In college and in grad school, I did all of my papers the night before, like start to finish the night before, because I worked so well under pressure. I just needed to know that I had no more time left. This was it. Do I encourage you to do that? Absolutely not. Please don't do that. I just learned over time that was the best way for me to work because I'm a wife and a mom and I have a full-time job and it just worked out better for me. But I would not encourage you to do that. But that's my answer is yes, I work beautifully under pressure and I would prefer to be under pressure, which means I love to multitask. I love more on my plate. Give me more, and I will do a good job for you. How do you handle work conflict? The best answer that you can give to anyone is I try not to get into conflict, but if there is conflict, I'm going to go to the person, try to work it out. If I can't, then I'm going to go to my immediate supervisor and have them help me. That's kind of the best answer you could possibly give anyone because they want to know that you're staying out of it, that you're going to approach the person you're having conflict with, which is the right thing to do, and try to work it out, just you two, or you're going to go to your immediate supervisor. You're not going to go and spread it around all the employees and try to pick sides. They want to know what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And then what skills do you bring to the job? Again, going back to your job description, what skills are they looking for? They're going to put that in the job description. You need to associate your answer with what they're looking for. So if they need an organized multitasker, you're going to say, I'm just really good at organization and I'm a multitasker. Give them what they want. As long as it's reality, if it's truth. If it's just two things, that's okay. What skills do you have? I'm really good at learning. I'm a fast learner. That would be great for a barista because I'm going to learn a bunch of new things. So if you're a fast learner, put that in there. So those, again, are skills and strengths that you're going to have to bring to the table associated with that job description. One of the things I will say is if you are asked a question and you do not have an answer, you can ask for more time to think about it. Employers do not mind if you say, hey, you know what? I'm not really sure how to answer that. Can I have some more time to think on it? And we come back to that. And they will likely say, yeah, absolutely. Let's go on to the next question while you give this one a thought. One of the key things here, though, is if you ask for more time, you are going to be responsible to answer that question. An employer will not come back to it. You have to say it. I have literally not gotten a job because I did not answer one of the questions, because I did not come back to it. This is when I learned this. When I got feedback on why I didn't get the job, they said, well, you asked for more time, but you didn't come back and answer the question. So what you could do is at the end of the interview, you can say, you know what? I just remembered we didn't go over that one question. I have an answer now. Can we go back and talk about that? So just bring it up at the end and answer the question. This is going to be key because it is okay to ask for more time, but also if they're filling out any sort of questionnaire with your answers and one is blank, they may toss that because they have 5 others that have answered all the questions. So you want to make sure that you're going back. So it is okay to ask for more time, but you're going to be responsible to answer that question later. So Tegan asked a really great question, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but she asked if you have some sort of, let's say, like an OCD or a tic or something. Do you need to bring that up during an interview? when they ask for like a somewhere that needs to be improved or even a strength. And no, you don't have to divulge everything to them. If there is, usually on applications, they may ask if you need any sort of accommodation for any reason. And that's a place to mark yes. So say someone in a wheelchair, there's a handicap, they will need an accommodation because of their wheelchair. And that's okay. We're going to have to talk about that. There's some sort of mental illness or something like that, you do not need to talk about that in your interview.
Or being OCD or having a tic or being those are things that will they prevent you from being able to do the job that you're applying for? Think about it that way. If you can't do the job that you're applying for because of those things, then that should stop you before you go any further. And you should have those conversations with your parents, with your teachers, with your confidence, and say, you know, will I be able to do this job because of this?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You have that conversation first, because by the time you go to the interview, you have reached that resolution within yourself to say, I can do this regardless.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That was a great way of putting it. Know beforehand, based off the job description, if you can do it or not. But things like OCD or even a tic or something like that, most of the time it doesn't prevent you from doing a job. You may find a job along the way that you just can't do. Maybe with OCD, you just maybe can't handle, you know, like a barista setting where everything is just messy all the time. It won't work. It's going to cause you more stress in that environment. So maybe that's not a good job for you to apply for, and that's okay. I have been in an interview myself, and I know my sister has too, and maybe more, you've been in this situation where you found something out in the interview that you didn't know, that you decided, I'm not going to be able to do that. It is okay to say, you know, with this new information, I just don't know that this job is right for me. So I'm just going to politely ask that we just end the conversation because I don't want to waste any more of your time at this point. But thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time. And that's it. It's okay to end an interview if you find something out that you just are like, I had no idea that this was a part of it and I can't do it. It could be anything from a license that maybe you don't have, like you can't drive a forklift, or something you're unwilling to do. It's okay to end the conversation. Don't waste any more of your time or theirs at that point. So that's okay to do that.
And let me go back to my previous career. I was in food service, hospitality industry. And I worked with a woman, very successfully worked with a woman who had OCD. She was probably the best employee I ever had because she was very organized. Everything needed to be clean. She polished silverware and glasses like no other. And when we needed something to be done properly and correctly, she was my go-to person. Because I trusted that no matter what the circumstances were, she was going to get the job done the way it needed to be done. So that was her strength, not her weakness. And she, in the interview, she said, I'm very compulsively clean. And I was like, awesome. And so seriously, you know, I mean, if someone said I'm really messy and I don't like to clean, I'd be like, this is not the job for you. So that was her strength, not her weakness. And she learned to use that going forward. And now she's a very successful photographer, and she's very organized in her photo shoots, and she's in architectural magazines, and she does incredible work. And so she's compulsively tidy, and it is she's won awards for that strength, because of that strength. So I would say too, along those lines, for anybody here, I would strongly encourage you to start looking at those areas that you think might hinder you as actual strengths. To be transparent, I deal with depression and anxiety, and it's diagnosed issues. But I look at my anxiety and my depression as
they kind of help me have red flags for situations. So if something is really getting me down and I'm feeling depression come on, I've learned to sit back and go, well, what is it? And it's maybe a problem that I can take care of and then alleviate. But then when I get very anxious, there's obviously something else going on. So I'm using that as a strength to say, is it my job? What is it about my job? And then I can approach that with my supervisor or whatever I need to do. So just because we have mental illnesses or tics or quirks about us, they actually can be used to our advantage if we learn to use them correctly. So
Right.
don't ever
Gives
let
you
something like
empathy.
that get you down or stop you.
Right. Empathy. You have empathy for
Yes.
people. You are able to you're not judgmental. You have a ability to see past someone else's weaknesses because you understand your own.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
And you are able to be a strong employee rather than just a regular everyday employee. You have right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we wear our weaknesses with badges of honor.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because they're not weaknesses.
Rather than being scorned. Right.
Yep. They're not weaknesses. They're just trials in our life that we're going to have ups and downs with, but we have the power and control to decide if we're going to continue to let them bring us down or we're going to power through it and work with them.
Right. Because there's a but in the sentence.
But yep, I'm an anxious person, but I'm really good at reading people and finding the problem, and I'm going to take care of it immediately because I don't want to feel anxious anymore.
Very good.
I'm a problem solver.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to the other side of the questions where, oops. Okay, yep. You are going to prepare your own questions. These questions can be about the job description, maybe usually something along the lines of almost all job descriptions will say if you have to carry or lift a certain pound at your job. And you can say, this indicates that I'll be carrying around 25 to 50 pounds. Can you explain a little bit more about what that looks like? Or questions like, what is the day-to-day life of a barista? What do they do when they get to work? And then by the time they end work, what does their job look like? So you want to ask engaging questions. They are looking for you to ask questions, and it's very important to ask questions. You can pull out questions as you're talking with them, but if you come prepared based off the job description with questions that you do have, it actually looks really, really good to the employer. They want to know that you're so interested that you want to know more. So I put down some common questions that you can steal from me and use in every interview if you want. Will you explain the daily responsibilities of this job? So like I said, tell me what the daily life of a barista looks like. Can you describe a successful employee in this role? So you are getting insight on what they're looking for. If they're going to hire you as a barista, what would the ideal barista look like? They're going to tell you with this answer. How is this successful? And then what are some of the barriers for this role that you're facing at the moment? What this is asking, and you can ask this anyway, is if you think about it, they're hiring for this position. Why are they hiring this? Did a bunch of people leave? Is it a new position? Is it somewhere where they're just trying to get more employees involved? What are some barriers facing this role? Is actually asking them, why are you hiring for this position? You probably want to know that, because if somebody turns around and say, well, we've had a lot of conflict within our employees, maybe you're not good at staying away from conflict, or you just don't want to hear about it. Maybe this isn't the right job for you at this time. But hearing their barriers to this role or this job can be very insightful on whether you even want this job or not. So asking that question is a good one. But 2 or 3 questions you need to come to the table with to ask them, and you can just randomly pull them off of the job description if you just don't know what to ask. Some people will ask the money question. How much does this job pay? I would shy away from that. They'll eventually tell you before you even agree to take the job. Usually it's when they're calling to hire you, they'll tell you what the compensation is, and you can decide at that point. So I wouldn't necessarily ask about that unless you're getting into a job where you're getting bonuses and it's on the job description. You can ask, what does this look like? You mentioned bonuses. What does that look like? Is it incentives? Is it just longevity, things like that. So come to the table with your questions ready, but also answers to your questions ready to go. Okay, I have 2 more slides. I'm going to just pull some things out here. Quick tips. Use appropriate language. Don't cuss. Even if your interviewer is cussing, do not cuss. None of it. Don't talk too much. Just answer the questions. I've talked a lot in this, explaining these questions and answers, but you just want 2 or 3 sentences to answer them. Maybe a little bit more on some of them, but especially your strengths or areas that you need to improve. Just a couple sentences will suffice. We don't need the history. We just need your statement and then what you're doing about it. Nonverbal communication is super important. We don't want to sit like how I'm sitting right now, all wrapped up because I'm cold. We want to be open. It's called the power stance. Actually, if you read some stuff on it, I'm not saying do this in your interview, but this is actually a power stance, putting your hands on your head. It means you're open, you're big, you're looking for feedback, you're present, you're here. So we want to sit with our arms out. You can't really see it based off my computer. You can sit with your hands folded like this, that's fine, but you don't want to be like this or sitting like this. It actually shows that you're pretty closed off. So the more open you can get, or just copy the way that the employer is sitting. So if you have questions on how I should sit, copy what they're doing. Usually, you know, for women, we cross our legs. You don't need to be sitting Indian style. I don't know what's crisscross applesauce. Sorry, the PC Indian style. Don't sit like that. Just sit properly, hands in your lap. Sometimes I sit at tables like this. I just kind of lean my arms up there, something like that. So please just don't be closed off. You never want to just lean in like this or have your hands up here. You don't want to be stretching during your interview. We just want to sit confidently, upright. We want to sit upright and make eye contact. And then don't bring anyone with you to the interview. I know at your age, you may not all be driving yet, and it's okay to have somebody drop you off, but they should not come into the place of business that you are interviewing at. If you get done with your interview and you have to call for your ride, go to the business over. Don't just make the call in the lobby, leave the business and then call for your ride, something like that. But you don't want to take someone with you. Unless, of course, you have some sort of exception to that. And, you know, some people have just aids that they need due to some handicaps that they may have, something like that. But you never want to bring someone to your interview unless you absolutely have to. The next part to end this, I'm sorry, I'm going over on time.
That's okay.
Call the interviewer and the company 3 to 5 business days after your interview. Okay, this is to follow up. They want to know you want the job, and so you're calling because you want the job. And what you could do is you just ask for the person that you interviewed with and just say, hi, I just wanted to follow up on my interview that I had last Wednesday. Just wanted to see if you had any other questions that I could answer for you. That's a great answer. It's saying, I really want this job. Is there anything else you need to know? They may have interviewed 10 people, and if you're the only one that calls, they're going to pull out your interview information. You're going to be right on top. So it's definitely necessary to call. And another necessary is to write or send a thank you of some sort. This may seem really old school, but it will put you ahead of the game. If you can send an email, since most things are done over email, to the person who interviewed you, within 24 hours of your interview, just saying, Dear Caitlin, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciated getting to know your company a little bit more. Please let me know if there's anything I can do. That's it. You're just thanking them for their time. You may not get the job, but I guarantee you they're going to remember this. They will remember. And it could have been a horrible interview, but the fact you followed up with them is going to be super important. So send a thank you. I've known some people that write out cards, generic cards, that just say, thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed getting to know you and the company. Please contact me for any other questions. And they actually leave it with the receptionist as they're walking out the door. That may not work for you. If you have an email address, just use that, but do this within 24 hours. It will step up your interview game for sure.
I used to, years ago, before email, I would write out the thank you note before I went into the interview and put it in the card with the stamp and mail it on my way out the door.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I mean, the receptionist was great, but they used to say having the postmark on the envelope showed that you took the time to actually do that. So
Yeah.
thank you note will separate you from the masses.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it really will. It really, really will.
Mhm.
It also is just common decency. Not many people have that anymore, to be nice to one another. So again, even if your interview wasn't that great, you walked out going, I'm probably not going to get this job. That's okay. Still thank someone for their time, because it does set you apart. And it maybe you're going to interview there in the future for a different position, and they'll remember, oh, you're the one that sent that thank you note. So again, it's just kind of a decent thing to do that not many people are doing anymore, but it's highly encouraged. And I know that I've received some thank yous, and it definitely set those people apart when I was deciding on who to hire. If you are preparing for an interview, there's a lot of websites out there that can help you. Indeed.com is a resume website. You can go on there and look for jobs and post your resume, but they have a lot of resources on interview questions. So Monster.com is the same thing. Really, really great ways to prep, even make a resume, how to fill out an application. So Indeed.com is probably one of those that I would refer you to first, because it is a legitimate website too. So click around on there. They've got some great ideas. So this is the end of that. That was a lot, but I know that if you do have questions, Maura is more than happy to answer them for you. I've been kind of going back and forth with Tegan on some questions in the chat box that I talked about, having a chat with you, Maura, just so that she could word some things correctly. But I'm also very happy to help someone and coach someone along. I think because Maura has interviewed people, that's the person you want to talk to, is somebody that has actually done interviews, not just been a part of them. So talk to people who have done interviews, conducted them. You'll get a lot of insight, but prepare ahead of time. You'll become accustomed to doing this. What do I need to do 24 hours out? Find my outfit, do some research, read the job description, have my questions prepared, and then you're good to go.
That was great, Caitlin. Yeah. Marathon, that was awesome.
Questions that, if you don't have to go, does anybody have any questions? I've gotten some good ones in the chat box. And
also, I mean, you guys, everyone has my phone number. You should. It's on my email. I'm available all day long. So you guys can call me anytime and ask me. And every question is a good question regardless. So nothing's silly and it's all good. So don't ever hesitate to text me or call me.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here and sitting through this. This was extra time and I just appreciate it. I feel so bad, but thank you. And then I'll just see you all next time.
Okay. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you.